Good evening. I'm Clayton Pryor, and it's my pleasure to guest host, filling in for Darius Hillman. A charismatic leader, husband, and father, he has dedicated his career to higher education. For over 25 years, he has held successive leadership roles as an administrator, faculty, and board member, earning recognition as one of the top minority professional leaders. Hailing from New Jersey, landing in Texas, leading him to Illinois, this transformational leader was appointed as Chancellor at Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, my alma mater, in 2020. In the middle of a global pandemic, he was tasked with growing enrollment, reconnecting with alumni, and positioning SIUC as a best-in-class institution. Please join me and Chancellor Austin Lane in the arena right now.
Here we go!
Chancellor Lane, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Clayton. It's good to see a SIUC across the table doing great things.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to share a table with you as well.
Thank you.
So let's jump right on in. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where were you born? When and where were you born?
Well, I am from Hackensack, New Jersey.
Okay.
And if you don't know where that is, that's about 15 minutes from New York City. It's
Okay.
probably the ugliest city in New Jersey. I don't know why they call New Jersey the Garden State. There was no grass where I grew up.
Okay.
So a little interesting place, but a great place to grow up and see a lot of things and interact with a lot of people.
Sure. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. You have siblings?
Have siblings. I've got all sisters. I'm the
Okay.
only boy, so that tells you anything. I got bullied a lot by
Okay.
each of them. I have an older sister, and I'm the middle. And then I've got a younger sister, and I've got two half sisters. So just surrounded by women.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about your relationship growing up.
You know, I grew up really was influenced by my mother and my grandmother. Those were, to me, some of the two biggest individuals in my life that kind of helped steer my path.
Sure.
I always wanted to make them proud and listen to a lot of what they would try and teach me, and definitely wanted to make it easy on them.
Sure.
Not giving them any problems. So I didn't have a lot of issues growing up. Just
So you weren't a problem child?
I wasn't a problem
You wasn't a problem
child.
child.
You know, no, it wasn't me. And my grandmother didn't play. You know, she would take care of that pretty fast.
I understand. I certainly understand
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Where'd you go to high school?
Went to high school, Hackensack High School, home of the Comets.
Home of the Comets.
Home of the Comets.
Okay.
Hackensack High, school there in Hackensack. Good place, a good school to grow up in, and you know, you meet a lot of folks from kindergarten all the way up, because that's one of those schools that you just stay together all the way through. So great place.
Got it.
Growing up.
Were you a good student?
No.
Tell me about your academic journey.
Actually, I was focused on basketball.
Okay.
When I went to high school, it was all about basketball. I was trying to play Division I, and I didn't have the SAT or ACT score, and I didn't have the high school GPA. So right out of high school, I had to go to junior college.
Okay.
And my counselors didn't even talk to me about college. You know, my coaches did, because they knew I could play ball.
Sure.
But didn't prepare myself in high school, was only focused on basketball. So I tell students all the time, if you know, I don't want to hear any excuses, right? If I can go from where I started to where I am today, anybody can. Yeah.
I agree with you, and my journey is very similar.
Wow.
Not really prepared for college, but SIU was that opportunity for me. So definitely grateful for that journey. So when you went to high school or college, excuse me, what did you imagine you'd do? What was your career choice?
You know, at that time, basketball still, even going to college, and like
to the
you,
NBA?
that was my dream
Sure.
at that time, and wasn't focused on academics. And like you said, if it were not for programs like probably Dr. Seymour Bryson and at SIU Carbondale, I would have been admitted in that program. Right? It was a program, obviously, that was set up for students who, late bloomers, is what I call them. And got in and got their opportunity and took advantage of it. So I didn't realize until after my first year at junior college that I needed to focus on the books, and things turned around for me pretty dramatically.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Dr. Bryson. So I was admitted through his program as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Center for Academic Success, working with Dr. Bryson and Dr. Yvonne Williams. They're long gone now, but I know that your administration has worked tirelessly to bring those programs back. And my journey is an example of that, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Because if you looked at my SAT score, ACT score, if you looked at my grades, no one would ever guess that I would be a two-time college graduate and have access to the things that I'm doing today. So those programs are impactful.
Yeah, it's a true evidence that those tests are not predictors of success.
They are not.
Right? I mean, we're living proof of that.
We are definitely living proof of that. So let's move on a little bit. So when you went to college, who were your mentors? So as you kind of started to set sights for your life, who did you connect with and what impact did they have?
My coaches were my mentors, but my biggest mentors obviously is my mother and my grandmother. Those two individuals, I only went to school to see them smile.
Yeah.
I really didn't go to school to finish the degree, or I went because every time I finished a degree, they were in the audience and they were crying, they were bragging on me, they were smiling. So I thought, well, I'll go back and get another degree, make them happy. So I was a pleaser for them, and they were my true motivators and my mentors. And my father as well. I won't forget my father. He also had an influence. We were just at a distance.
Sure.
But he would always try and give advice and give different nuggets to kind of help me along the way. So I've had a lot of folks that have really helped me get to where I am today.
Yeah, mentors are very important. And as I think about my journey at SIU, we were assigned mentors our freshman year. I turned around and became a mentor. That's actually where I met Tanya, who's one of your vice chancellors today.
Great job. Yes.
Absolutely. So let's switch gears a little bit. Tell me about Lauren. Where did you guys meet?
Lauren, met in Houston, in hot Houston, Texas. And for us, you talk about how small the world is. She actually grew up in New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
The same time I did. We just didn't know it. And she went to Rutgers, right in New Jersey, and was there about the same time I was there, but met in Houston. So just talk about how small the world is. So much in common when we go back home and see our family that's there. But she's been my biggest supporter. From every stop that I've been, she's been there to really encourage me and as I call it, a first lady. She's been there for me to make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and staying motivated.
Very good. You guys have children?
Yes, we've got a 26-year-old daughter who is an advisor at Lone Star College in Houston.
Okay.
She finished at the University of Houston, so she's out and finally out of my pocket. I've got a son, a 22-year-old, who is actually, he graduated from Texas A&M, played football there for 3 years, and now he's transferred. He's at Georgia Tech, playing his last 2 years.
Awesome.
Football, scored a 48-yard touchdown the other day against Louisville.
Okay.
And I've got a 17-year-old who is almost out of the house.
Almost.
So this is his last year, and he's thinking about what he's going to do next. He spent his whole summer at Syracuse University in their communication program. He wants to be a broadcast journalist.
Awesome. We should get him connected.
Yeah, I was going to say, I need to connect him with you.
We should get him connected.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit, how do you balance everything? So you're a husband, you're a father, you're a chancellor, you're a board member, you're a faculty member. How do you balance?
For me, I've always been good with making sure that I leave time for myself and that I have enough energy to be able to spread that amongst all the folks you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Right, but family's first for me. Not my job as chancellor or any of that. My first priority is my family. And I've always been able to be there and spend time and show up to events and that awesome. Continues even to this day. So I've just learned how to do it over the years. I don't get a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
Because this job is demanding enough where you do some things that happen after hours. But I don't feel like I'm ever working. I feel like I was put on this earth to do exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, people say when you kind of find a job that you love, that you're passionate
Yeah.
about, you never work
You
another
never
day
work
in
a
your
day in
life.
your
And that's so true.
Totally agree.
I agree with you 100%. So tell me a little bit, how does fatherhood inspire you? So you have your 3 kids, they're doing well, some following in your footsteps in higher education.
Yeah, I always taught my children to be who you are, right? Don't try and be me, and be true to yourself, right? And as a father, my job is always to be a motivator, cheerleader, someone who is always giving encouragement and not critical of what they're trying to do at their different levels in life. I let my children be who they are. Same with my students on campus. Again, I look at students who are starting out like I was, right, and like you were, right,
Absolutely.
just really trying to find themselves
Figure it
and
out.
never give up on them, and to really encourage them, to make them believe sometimes things that they don't even believe,
you don't believe.
right? As my grandmother would always say, if you don't have $1 in your pocket, walk like you got $1 million. And
Wow.
I mean, you got to fake it sometimes too,
until
right?
you make
until you
it,
get
right?
there. So,
Until you get there.
and we've got those students on our campus. So it's like my kids, it translates into my students. Just being a father figure or
Yeah.
a mentor or role model
Sure.
is what I've tried to do for them.
That makes a lot of sense. And I've seen you've taken the students to class on the first day.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's
I
a
love
really
that.
cool, personable way of interacting with
Yep.
students.
They
And,
have no idea who I am.
No?
I love it. Yeah,
just
they
pick 'em
they
up?
think I'm the football coach. A lot of them go, "Oh, you're the coach?" I say, yeah, I'm the coach. It doesn't matter. You
just say,
need
"Get
to
in."
get to class.
Get in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. They figure it out later on in the week. They go, "You're not the coach. You're the chancellor." I say, yeah, it didn't matter.
It didn't matter,
As long
right?
as you're here. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
love doing that. I've been doing that for 20-something years, just
Yeah.
taking students to class.
That's
and
awesome.
Getting to know them.
That's awesome. So you've held a variety of roles, Chancellor at
Mm-hmm.
SIU, you've been at Lone Star College, you've also been at Tyler Junior College
Mm-hmm.
as well. What is unique about each of these roles as you've kind of progressed through your career?
Yeah, when I started at the University of Texas at Arlington as a counselor.
Oh.
And from there, I knew I wanted to get into administration. And so I was able to move up to Dean of Students and left there, went to Tyler Junior College, became a vice president, stayed for a few years. And then I got introduced to administration in community college as a community college president.
Okay.
And that's where I went to Lone Star. And so I've always had that passion for 2-year community colleges, serving as a president, but wanted to make the switch to 4-year and went to Texas Southern. Having an HBCU
Yes.
background, I went to Langston University in Oklahoma,
Okay.
HBCU. So
Very good.
I thought, how nice would it be to go to an HBCU? Had a great time at Texas Southern, and then found what I consider to be my dream job here at SIU Carbondale. So I've been able to always sort of progress in my career with, again, just being strategic, but having a passion to serve students.
Sure. So what attracted you to SIU? So you've had a great career. You have a lot of options, I'm sure. In
Yeah.
Carbondale, Illinois, of all places.
All places.
What attracted you?
It started close to 30 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi.
Oh, right.
And
I
they
won't hold it
had,
against you.
oh, don't hold
I
it
won't-
against
I won't
me.
hold it against
Don't
you.
hold it against me. But they had this Kappa Carnival.
Yes.
So that's how I heard about Southern Illinois University. It was on a road trip from Langston University in Oklahoma
Wow.
to the Kappa Carnival.
Wow.
You believe that?
Yeah.
So when I was on campus at SIU Carbondale, I would have never dreamed I'd be back in 30-something years,
Wow.
right, serving as chancellor. So that, Greek life kind of helped out a little bit with
Absolutely.
that. But knowing about the history of the institution, when I talk to alums, they tell me that that they felt like when they were there, particularly alums who are from, or African American alums will tell you, it felt like a HBCU
I was going to say
at
that.
a PWI. Have you
I was
heard
gonna
that
say
before?
that. Absolutely.
Look at that. With one of the most diverse campuses in the country when you think about the number of minority students that we enroll.
Absolutely.
Probably the highest percentage, next to Georgia State, they typically enroll
Sure.
a very high number of African American students at a PWI. But that's what's so unique about our institution is the diversity. So
Absolutely.
I love it.
So there's a lot of alumni across the country, and your administration has done a really good job. The SIUC takeovers, you've done the SIUC Ball, and you've really worked to re-engage alumni. Can you tell me a little bit about that and why that's important?
That was, I didn't get a chance to go to SIU Carbondale, you did.
I did.
So I could feel when I got here 3 years ago the amount of pride and passion that was here. Some of it needed to be
Reinvigorated.
Yeah, reinvigorated. So we brought along the SIUC takeover. It was really our way of saying, hey, we're here. We haven't gone anywhere. We're still that institution of choice, right? We're still that place that we hope students will select us, right? So the SIUC takeover was our attempt to not only recruit in this area, and our numbers are showing that we're doing pretty well, but to also get back to that feeling of SIU Carbondale and where our position is in the state and around the country. So those takeover tours are everywhere. You know, we have them all over. And then our SIUC ball. Yeah. That was the inaugural ball that we had here in Chicago. We'll have it again this April, coming up in 2024. Awesome. It attracted a lot of our alums and our donors, and so put a nice fresh face on our university, and hopefully folks had a good time. So we're excited about what's coming up this year.
Yeah, I definitely have appreciated your administration and what you've done to reconnect with alumni. So yeah, this is great.
That's
awesome.
Good to hear.
Awesome.
That's what we're doing.
So kind of shifting gears a little bit, you know, as you think about, you know, young people who may be watching this interview, young African-American males, people who look at you and say, hey, one day I want to do that. What advice would you give them?
I would tell them that look at my journey. I didn't talk to counselors or principals or anyone about becoming a chancellor. If you go back to my high school, some are probably still scratching their head thinking, how in the world did this guy pull it off? So I would tell them, you know, don't be an imposter. You know, sometimes we have that imposter theory. We think that we shouldn't be in certain places or we're not as qualified to be there. I would tell them to talk themselves out of that and continue to believe in what they are capable of doing, right? And that's the biggest thing that helped me along the way is that I just had the grit and determination to make sure that I really use some of those folks as my motivators to do well today. So I would say that to folks listening, the youngsters out there listening, is use some of those setbacks and some of those folks who were naysayers or just didn't think you were going to do anything. Use them as your motivator to get to where you want to go. Yeah.
I often, you know, repeat the quote that you can't be what you can't see. So having you in front of this audience in Chicago tonight is so impactful just because of your journey and the position that you hold is so impactful for people who are listening. So thank you for that. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about your vision for SIUC? So as you think about, you know, you've been here, this is your fourth year, coming into your fourth year. What is the vision for the university? What are you looking to accomplish in your tenure here?
When I got here, I was very careful to create a shared vision because I knew if it was just me, you know, I'd be the only one going there.
You'd be the only one marching.
So I reached out to faculty, staff, students, alums, community members, and I asked the question, where do you see SIU today and where do you want to see it, you know, 5, 10, 15 years from now? As a result, we came up with our Imagine SIUC in 2030, and we did that together, and it's pillars that we're all focused on: student success and engagement, academic innovation and research, diversity, equity, and inclusion, sustainability, branding and marketing, right? All of those 5 pillars is what our university campus stakeholders are focused on. Not 25 pillars, but 5. They're a little more manageable. Sure. And we're trying to really, between now and 2030, we're trying to reach some goals. Enrollment obviously was one. We had great success this year, but we want to get to 15,000 by 2030. So we know we weren't where we were when you were there.
Yeah,
what were
you?
We
were
was
20,
it 20?
26.
20 some odd thousand.
Something thousand, So tell me, you had a little bit of success recently. I know I saw the publication, the largest increase in
30 years.
30 years.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. But we strategically set out to do that 3 years ago. So it's not magic. I mean, we had to form partnerships here with the community colleges in the area. We had to form partnerships with our CPS and Hope Chicago and all the folks that actually feed students down to Carbondale. So, and outside of Illinois, we've been down in Texas where I'm from and some other places. So, you know, we're going to continue to talk about SIU Carbondale and the advantages of attending that institution and where you can go from there. So that work continues.
Yeah, that's great. So we've talked a lot about the positive things. You've had a great trajectory, but what were some of the challenges that you faced as you think about your career, even here at SIU as chancellor? What are some of the challenges that you faced?
Well, I think, you know, I'm such an optimistic person, so I always change the challenge to opportunities, right?
Fair enough.
One, when I arrived, was enrollment. Yeah. You know, that was the #1 item that alums and everyone would say, well, how are you going to increase the enrollment, right? Hey, good morning to you too, right? It was right into that, how are you going to do it? And so I said, we're going to do it together. So it's been a great opportunity to look at that. And in higher education, I've worked at places that have always needed to increase enrollment. So for me, it was I guess it was a challenge, but it was an opportunity because I've done it at other places before with a great team of people. So, you know, I think it's helped our institution. I think it's helped the students, give them access to quality higher education. So that's what I love doing, is to be able to do that. So for me, not so much of a challenge. I just see it as a way to, you know, keep hitting targets.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. One of the things you did was you took this role in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
So, you know, years ago, the world shut down, students were remote, you know, we went home with the hopes of coming back in 2 weeks, and that turned into years for some. Can you talk to us a little bit about the challenge, you know, of a university navigating a global pandemic? What was that like?
You know, higher education leaders didn't have a roadmap. We didn't have a cheat sheet. That was a little different. They didn't teach us that in graduate school. They didn't say, guess what? One of the case studies is going to be a pandemic. We never talked about that at all. So when it happened, talk about getting some criticism for not being able to predict the future. Right? And luckily our institution did quite well, right? So we had a lot of insight from our medical school. It helps to have a medical school when you're going through a pandemic, right?
It does.
And be able to really communicate to the masses about what we were thinking about doing and how we were going to do it. So very challenging time, not so much for us than it was for our students. So imagine starting your first year, your freshman year, and then having to go fully online after a few months. That's tough. The psychological, you know, piece that really impacted our students, and trying to get them back to where they were before the pandemic was pretty tough. And so a lot of work had to be done there to get us where we needed to be. But we made it. We're still cautiously optimistic, right? We don't take it for granted, but we still have a little bit of work to do in making sure folks are safe. But we're committed to that work.
Sounds great. And you know, I hear a lot about the university here in Chicago now, so people are reinvigorated about what the institution does and what it can do for themselves, their kids, their families. So thank you for all of the work that you've done, you know, at SIU and throughout your career. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So Chancellor Lane, thank you sincerely for making time to join me in conversation and community. We'll be right back with 3 for the Road.
What's going on, Chicago? I'm Darius Caffey, and I invite you to join me for a new episode of The Table on Air with special guest, social media influencer, and powerhouse, DeAndre Brown.
For us, it's like, yeah, I'm delusional, but my delusions are gonna become my reality.
Join the conversation with us on Tuesday, October 24th at 7:30 p.m. on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19, streaming on cantv.org, and available on the CAN-TV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
I'm Hugo Balta, host of 3 Questions With. There is an urgent need to increase the number of judges who have spent their careers representing underserved populations. One candidate that the Cook County Democratic Party did endorse is Judge James Murphy Aguilu.
Appellate court justices, you're still looking at percentages that are not representative of our community.
Join us on Wednesdays at 7:30 in the evening via Channel 19, streaming on cantv.org and the CAN-TV Plus app.
Joining me on the next episode of Every Day is a Yay is Nuriel.
No, I was like never afraid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where's that come from?
I don't know, to be honest.
Wow.
I think it was just like, just keep learning and money will come. Period.
Join the conversation Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19 and streaming on cantv.org and the CAN-TV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
All right, Chancellor Lane, so we're in our final segment. So I have 3 questions for you, and I need 3 answers, all right? So if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Be my grandmother, all over again. You know, she taught me so much while she was cooking and feeding me, and I just long for the day to see her again and have that moment.
Yeah. I can totally understand. I lost my grandmother 5 years ago, so I would join you, absolutely. So next question, do you have any regrets?
I never have regrets. I don't know, Why? I think the biggest reason is whatever happens, I feel like it's God's plan.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to happen. So there's nothing to regret. It was somewhere in his book of here's what happens in the life of Austin Lane.
Absolutely. So what's one piece of advice current day Chancellor Austin Lane would give your 21-year-old self?
Probably to be unapologetic. You know, I think being humble is always a good thing. I was taught to be that. But to be unapologetic, sometimes I think as African American males, you know, we are always trying to go over and above.
Yeah. Simulate,
right?
absolutely.
That's right.
That's what we're taught.
But you know, we sometimes, you know, maybe a little too hard on ourselves, even when we're successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we want
you're
to
right.
tap that down a little bit. So I would
Yes.
think, be bold. I love seeing the new generation of students because they have that in
They
them.
do.
Well, they're
Naturally.
just as confident. You know, they can run through a wall. They
Yeah.
dream big, and I hope that continues. And if I can help in any way, right, as the students I interact with, I would tell them to chase their dreams and do it in a way that is just unapologetic.
That's great. Chancellor Lane, one final question. What is your biggest hope and fear for your children?
Well, my hope is that they follow their dreams, right, and that they have the grit and determination to make sure that they have the confidence in what they're doing. I think that's the biggest hope, right, is that they see success in whatever form comes their way. My fear is the opposite of that, right, is that they give up on themselves or they don't feel like they are adequately prepared to compete. But my biggest fear is that they don't find happiness, right? And that's a very tough thing for some folks, right? They don't find that happiness. They're always looking for something else.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they need to be complacent.
Sure.
But it means that they are content with what they've done and how hard they've trained to do it. And they have success in that form.
Very good. The pursuit of happiness is a real thing.
That's right.
Absolutely. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure to
Thank
join you at
you.
this table.
Thank you.
And thank you, Chicago and beyond, for tuning in. Let me leave you with a final thought for the road, courtesy of Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Until next time, take good care of you and each other. Good night.